We are back with another episode of the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we got to get to talking about them ball cards.
Yep, we got a lot to talk about this week.
We are not in New York.
No, I couldn't justify although I will say this. Yesterday, in one
Fanatics Fest is going on.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, no, yesterday in one of the private groups I'm in on Facebook that has some pretty big boys playing around in it.
I don't know what that means.
Somebody offered up 2 showcases and a badge to Fanatics Fest this weekend, and I thought really hard about it.
What was their asking?
Didn't even get to that point.
Yeah.
But
It's got to be a lot.
I seriously considered getting to that point, but with just being at the National 3 weeks ago and shows coming up all over the place for me.
I mean, last minute travel to New York, hotels.
I'd have just driven if I was doing it. I'm not you. I don't mind the drive.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm just glad you're back to the land of the living.
Oh, man. Got the full-blown man flu this week.
Yeah, got that old strep throat.
I haven't had it in a minute.
Got that adolescent disease.
It took me down. My throat was so swollen. I opened up my mouth, and there was cottage cheese in the back of my throat. I knew.
No.
Hey, something ain't right here.
You think?
Yeah. So I thought.
I didn't like that description at all.
Well, I didn't like the sensation, and I like cottage cheese.
It's just going off the rails really fast.
So got some antibiotics. I'm back to normal. Kids are back in school. What a wish, right?
Yeah, my kids obviously are not in school anymore. Both of their birthdays were in the last couple weeks, but I remember when they were in school watching these moms on Facebook say how sad they were that their kids were going back to school and the house was just going to feel empty. And all I'm thinking in my brain is, y'all are lying. You're lying to everybody. Yes, I get that your kids growing up makes you sad, but if you tell me that you weren't ready for some peace and quiet and calm in your house, you are either insane or lying.
Yeah, I got more done work-wise in the first 3 hours yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
I did a full day, but
yeah, you did.
But yeah, I got a high schooler now. That was the big milestone one. That's last year of my daughter being in elementary school. So
yeah, no, for sure.
Just crazy. And I decided to be sick for most of the week. So
Leading up to that.
Just now getting back to it. But yeah, Fanatics Fest is going on this week in New York. Here's a couple things I want to say about it. One, this is if people were expecting just a card show, this is not that.
Correct.
This is more sports / collectibles, but what they are offering are some really cool experiences with exposure to star athletes, interviews, that kind of stuff that you wouldn't normally get.
Also some industry panels, breakout sessions, some of the things that you were hoping were going to be at the National, not knowing what to get into there since your first time there. And you were asking me about it going up, and I was like, no, it's pretty much just a big, giant card show. They're doing some of that type of stuff. And I'm not sure whether this is Fanatics' attempt to try to supplant the National at some point or whether they plan on keeping it more of as an adjacent thing.
Well, and the Fanatics brand is bigger than just cards. So
correct.
I think it's probably a bigger experience. So I think it's going to be really cool. I think more collectors will go to it. It could be a really cool spot. I'm sure there'll be some really nice trade night stuff, that kind of stuff there. It is going to be more expensive just to the facility's
in New York
nice.
City.
Yeah. Their marketing was clean, like when they introduced what players will be there.
Oh, yeah. Well, they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
from a marketing standpoint, they know exactly what they're doing. My Facebook feed has been blown up for 2-3 weeks with just video ads of like Tom Brady talking about being there and all these guys that you don't get the opportunity to interact with on a regular basis, right?
Yeah. They're not regularly doing that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Whatever scandals there are and whatever drama happens. And speaking of drama, if you missed it, which I'd be surprised by now if you have, but Ruben dropped a Easter egg in the Tops Now product. LeBron,
for the Olympics.
Yeah, for the Olympics. Steph, LeBron, KD, right?
Correct.
On-card autos of all three, 1 of 1.
It's one card.
Yeah.
that's on
one
card.
randomly inserted into an order of Tops Now.
BS.
Gary thinks that it's not randomly inserted.
Nope.
We're gonna talk about that here in just a second. But this is a card that, for a lot of reasons, is a monster. Steph autos and LeBron autos are hard to find. I don't know that KD signs a ton of stuff either, does he?
Yeah, KD autos are out there. Steph autos are pretty easy to get a hold of. They're not cheap,
Right.
but they're out there. The biggest deal with this is the first time this product and then the new basketball product that's coming out will be the first LeBron autos that aren't upper deck autos in God knows how long.
That's
probably
a big
10
deal.
years, yeah.
Because it's Olympic too, there's like a mystique with so Dream Team era players' autographs are big, but for some reason, because of how dominant the Dream Team was, the Team USA stuff has a aura about it that just demands a higher premium. So, products like the player pass that Jordan wore, like you've seen some of the different celebrities have, jerseys that are signed because it was a special event. But this is looking to be a massive card. Now, before we jump into some of the drama around it, let's just talk about the product. Gary and I differ on opinions with what will happen with this Tops Now card. Michael Rubin is saying this will be randomly sent out. So the way it works is you go order the Tops Now. You can order one card or you can order hundreds. I don't know if it's
sold out now. It's sold out pretty quick.
What was the cost to get one card?
Well, so this was what was really fun with this thing.
The
price changed.
What was the price?
Well, they advertised it at $8.99, but the minute it went in your card, it went to $11.99.
Okay, $11.99 for a card that, if you just get the base, is it a $3 card?
It'll sell for $10.
Yeah. Okay. So it's got those three people on it,
and there's other numbered variations.
Yeah. You can get numbered variations of it and all that. But he's advertising that someone's going to order this card, expecting the $11, $8, $11, whatever card, and they're going to get this card that's worth a ton of money and super desirable. I think that is true. You think that is BS.
Well, I think it's BS because we've seen over and over again that all the big cards that Fanatics produces tend to end up with the same group of people.
What's that group?
All the time. Whoever spends the most money with Fanatics from a breaking standpoint.
Give me some examples.
Backyard Breaks pulled 4 straight one-of-ones in 4 straight cases of some of the biggest names in the last basketball release for Bowman U that Fanatics did.
Okay, Backyard Breaks.
Same thing happened with football. Leighton ends up in the same boat a lot too.
Okay.
Now with these Tops Now cards, again, they all tend to end up in the hands of individuals who are either really well known in the hobby to the average person, or in the hands of individuals who people who have been in the hobby for a long time know are the big money guys in the hobby.
Okay, let me ask you a question because I disagree with this.
Okay.
Okay. Let me we're talking about gambling essentially, right? The chase, right? We're talking about a chase.
Yeah.
So let's do a parallel here.
Yep.
We're in Ohio, the Ohio lottery, okay?
Okay.
Which of these scenarios is more likely to drive people to buy more tickets, scratch-offs, all that? Scenario 1, Random Joe, blue collar, went in for his coffee at Speedway, grabbed a ticket, and won $500 million, all right?
Okay.
Option 2, billionaire wins $1 million.
Yeah. No, I understand. I think that's a bad analogy.
But it's my analogy, so let's play this out.
Yeah, no,
let's play this out.
In your analogy,
for
scenario 1
okay,
is
let's say
better.
that they're both $1 million, right?
Yep.
An insignificant amount to the super wealthy guy, life changing for the other. I think it can do more damage for this to end up in the hands of the scenario that you're talking about. Well, end up to start, to be opened in those hands.
Yep.
Than for it to just randomly be out there.
Okay.
Here's the other thing. How can you argue random if someone buys one card versus someone buying 10,000 of these?
So I think the more accurate analogy in a gambling situation is a casino.
Okay.
The house is always going to maintain its edge. Always. Always, always, always. The house
got it. Let's go. Come on.
They will never offer a game where they aren't going to win the majority of the time. Now, in this specific situation, what does more for the overall Fanatics brand? A guy like Drake magically getting a Logo Man, the product hit in the one box that Michael Rubin happens to open in a penthouse suite with him on camera and draws all kinds of attention to the brand, or some schmuck buying that box at a random LCS and nobody ever knowing who they were.
So does the story get out?
Oh, of course it
Is
does.
it on video of the random? Like somebody had a phone out.
We'll
like
see.
It's gone. No, I'm saying like in your scenario.
Well, that scenario that I just gave you was a real scenario.
Well,
that
I know that, but if that random Joe Schmo or whoever you called him is on video opening that card, in my opinion, it does more for a random person to do it than people are skeptical already. Like everyone's not this stupid, bud. Everyone's kind of like, oh, another celebrity. Oh, everyone's tired of seeing backyard breaks hit.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, okay, it's cool that Drake collects. Yeah, whatever. I think you're wrong about this. So hear me out.
I'm listening.
What will establish that you were wrong about this? It would have to be a non-main, like, massive breaker?
Yeah. Some random person, because it's already what's going to happen, because these things come in a sealed package. You can't see what's inside of it.
Right.
I guarantee you that breakers ordered 500 of these,
Oh,
1,000
I don't
of
disagree
these,
with that.
and they will be ripping these packs.
So, but that's my point, too. Like, let's say one of them hits it, and you're like, see, I told you. Yeah, they had 1,000 of them. Their odds are higher that they're going to hit that. It still could be randomly inserted into a case.
Okay.
Is that not true?
It is.
Because at that point, then it's just like, do you really think that they're taking their time to give these to certain people on every product?
One, it doesn't take that much time. Two, I know that you don't have a lot of access to these things. Cases, actual full cases of product, are absolutely marked. 1,000,000% marked. There's a reason that people are using CT scanners on high-end product.
Well, I understand that. Now, that is a game changer.
And cases are marked. You can look at, so 3 years ago, Panini had to actually change this because people figured it out. Crown Royale basketball, you could look at the code on the front of the box and tell whether there was a kaboom in it. They're marked. They're freaking marked. This year in Optic Football, it's happening. Optic Football hobby boxes, the way they're collated, if a hobby shop just opens a box, right, and puts out that box to sell the packs individually, if you're the first person there and you see that they just opened a fresh box, buy all the packs in the top left corner. That's where the auto or the case hit is. 100 out of 100 times. Like, the stuff's rigged.
An auto or case hit it's not the same as a juice case. That's a
No,
very
but
different scenario.
But I agree that it's a different scenario. But my point is that if you think that this many coincidences are maintaining their status as coincidences, I think that you are the target audience for Fanatics. They know that people are going to keep buying their stuff regardless.
How am I? I don't buy
rigged.
wax.
No. I don't mean you. The generic you. The generic you. That's the issue. I think that this card is probably somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. I think that's the value of the card if it goes to open auction.
I think it's $500K. Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, that $500K is going to end up in the pocket of somebody who's already a really well-known entity in this hobby.
If that well-known entity bought thousands of that card, that certainly increases their odds of pulling that card. I don't, but like you've gone full-blown Alex Jones here on. No, I'm serious. Like you start there, and then it's like you're drinking children's blood, so it really doesn't matter. Like at this point, Because you start with it's almost like, what's the most extreme hot take I can have on this? And I'll just throw that out because you basically hedge your bet. No matter how it turns out, unless it is a random person that bought one pack, you will feel like it was rigged.
I don't even necessarily think it's a random person that buys one pack that
if it's a breaker, is it rigged?
I think if it falls into the hands of one of the 3 or 4 biggest revenue generators for Fanatics.
Okay, say that again more slowly.
I think if it falls into the hands of one of the 3 or 4 largest revenue generators for Fanatics, yeah.
How would they become the largest revenue generators for Fanatics? How do you do that?
Well, if you look at who those are.
No. How do they say these are the highest revenue generators? What is that measured by?
The amount of dollars they're spending with Fanatics
on
product
that they're
either ripping or holding.
So people that are opening the most product are most likely to hit the bigger cards, is what you're saying.
No, I don't disagree with that, but there's a huge difference between most likely and always.
Every time.
There's a huge difference between that. And when 90% of the product hits, the $800,000, $1 million cards are all getting hit by the same 3 or 4 groups of people, now we're not talking about a situation where that's just kind of the odds.
Isn't Backyard exclusively repack now?
No, they're not exclusively repack.
On Whatnot? Are they on Fanatics Live again? At all?
I'm not sure whether they're on Fanatics Live or not, but I know they're not
they were exclusively repack.
Nope, I've got a buddy that just got hired by them.
With Fanatics?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I believe so. I'll check.
I'd be interested
because I've got a friend who
I've
literally just got hired to break full time.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different. I've heard a couple different stories on that. That if you head to their streams now, that it's all different repack products.
Yeah, not all.
Okay,
not all.
Huh? I did hear that. I wonder if that changed.
Now it may be with basketball and football that's the case. They may have lost whatever with Panini, but I don't think so because they literally just hit a bunch of Wembies right in a row, a bunch of one-on-one Wembies right in a row.
But at $10 a card, don't you think there are going to be wealthy people, celebrities that collect? I mean, there's probably people that bought. It's such a brilliant marketing idea. I think they, unless there's a scam exposed with this, I think this is brilliant for Topps now.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
And they're not all going to be $500,000 cards or to $1 million, whatever. I mean, this is the type of thing. There's enough excitement that at an auction it could certainly drive up higher than people were expecting. But they did with it was with the flagship Topps where they had the Wemby Auto and the CJ for the first pitch. But with Topps now, if they start throwing in some golden tickets where there's consistently a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 card in there, now these ugly cards are desirable because they're hideous.
Sure.
The design is ugly on them.
Yep.
It's a cool concept that, there are probably people that have a little bit of money in these things because they hit the number one, or it's just like remember when the Fauci one was like a big card?
But in general, the Topps Now stuff holds about 15 to 20% of the value of a traditional packed out card. And that's perception based. It has nothing to do with rarity or anything else. It's just perception of the hobby.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So there's a lot of drama around this. Obviously, G and I have different opinions on it. It's weird for me because as much as I don't think that that's going to happen with this, if one of those guys hits, I would also be a collector that kind of has an eye roll like that figures kind of mentality. But I think it benefits Fanatics more for somewhere around here. It's going to have to be rig it for the little man if you're going to do it. Get it to a random LCS and Kansas and let somebody open it, right? So drama around this card. So once it was announced that this card was coming out, obviously this is what's become popular is for there to be a bounty. Somebody that really wants the card that either thinks is going to make money on it or it's the PC card that they want. They're going to really try to do whatever they can to pick this card up. So they're going to say, hey, I'm going to give X amount of dollars for this card if you hit it. It's immediate cash. You already have a buyer. Cool concept. So as soon as this is announced, within a day or two, Geoff Wilson decides that he is going to put a bounty on this card. And I think he really believed that he was going to blow people away with this offer because it's a lengthy video. If you haven't seen it, it's posted on his Instagram. But essentially, I'm offering $100,000 as if this, listen, $100,000 for me, that'd blow my mind. But hear me out. When we're talking like exclusive high-end cards, people were doing this with Logo Man Zion a couple years ago.
This is an auto of LeBron, Steph, and KD. Consensus 3 of the top 15 players of all time.
Top 3 of an era.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And then one of them top 2 or 3, period.
Yeah.
And Steph has an argument for top 10 ever.
Yeah.
For comparison's sake, the Anthony Volpe pro debut patch auto card, 1 of 1 from Update Series Baseball last year, had a $1 million bounty on it.
Yeah.
And it actually just got pulled here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So Geoff offers this bounty. He says, $100,000. I will fly you out to Atlanta. I will personally enter. He's selling.
This is where the delusion is. This is where the delusion is.
We will hang out. He's like, I'll be your friend for a day. Then it's we'll go to a game in Atlanta, whether you want to go to Braves, Hawks. He says we'll go to Cards HQ, and you can pick out any one box that you want in the store. So he's basically putting a price tag of I can't imagine a world where it's $110,000.
There's probably some $20,000 boxes in that shop.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, so you figure like somebody wants Transcendent or somebody wants a 2020 Flawless.
You don't think those disappear that day?
Well, they may. Yeah, he may.
Well,
now who's a conspiracy theorist?
Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. One of them is a person with a bad record. The other, we're talking about like Fanatics itself and Michael Rubin, who you were in love with a year ago. No, I'll remind you, by the way.
I think Fanatics is doing...
Now that Panini's going off to the sunset, you have to find somebody else to be mad at.
I'm not mad at Fanatics. I don't even think it's a bad marketing plan. I just think I think that the reality of the situation needs to be understood.
Okay. Well, anyway, back to this. I disagree with you still. Back to Geoff Wilson. I think he's planning on dropping probably around 110 to 115 grand total for this card.
Yeah.
I think he posts this and thinks, with my video and my personality and my brand, this is what because he's always like what the hobby needs. He thinks this is what the hobby needs. So we go from one guy who is like rapidly losing my respect, and I can't explain. He's never done anything offensive to me. I don't think he's intentionally ever ripped anyone off. He has just given terrible advice, and this
is what happens when a giant nerd gets some popularity. It goes directly to their heads, and they have no idea how self-delusional
Like, you remember John Lovitz in the movie Benchwarmers?
Yes.
I only have $1 million on me.
Yes. It's that. It's that.
It's the ego. Like, we were seeing other clips. Sports Card Radio talked about this. Like, when the Fanatics or when the National opened, he like positioned himself in the entryway and was glad-handing everyone like they were there for him.
Yeah.
He wasn't the only one. Who's the other one? That's the younger kid with Burbank that does a lot of
Mojo?
stuff. Mojo was there. I've never followed. I know some people have polarizing opinions. I don't know him. I haven't watched much of his stuff.
He's just annoying to me.
Geoff, for me, I can't. He's unwatchable.
Yes. You really want to cringe? Go watch some of his early videos.
It's bad in front of a camera on a trade night when he is live. He's literally saying, "Chat, what do you think?" He literally means, "I have no clue what the comps are on this card.
Yeah,
tell me if this is
I don't
reasonable.
know if this is worth it."
Yeah, let me pull up this monthly subscription, aggregate for you all to buy. But
if the pandemic had never happened, we'd never know who Geoff Wilson is.
Well, there's a lot with that. So anyway, we've offered a lot of opinions on Geoff's video. So the next thing that happens, which I actually consider this a gangster move. So first off, this goes out. I think he's expecting everybody to be like, dang, Geoff's going after that card.
Massive low
How
ball.
cool. Everyone's saying massive low ball. How dare you? You're ripping people off. This card's worth way more than that. There's other people that are like people who run their business completely off of Facebook. They just have a big Facebook selling group. There are people in those circles that are like, shoot, I'll do 150.
Yeah, there was a 350.
There's a 350. Yeah. So then my favorite thing happens. Ken Golden makes a video.
Who's also a giant douche.
Here's what I would say. I think Ken Golden is true to himself.
Yes, he's a giant douche, but he embraces it.
I don't know that. I have not seen that type of behavior.
You should read about his history in the hobby.
Okay.
He has burnt this hobby multiple times over the last 30 years.
Well, anyway, whether that's the case or not, because I don't know if I can trust you.
Just go look up Scoreboard.
You are like a
Just
punk
go look
band.
up Scoreboard.
Everybody sucks. Everybody sucks.
Go look up Scoreboard.
Yeah. If it was you, Brian Leaf would be running this industry.
Brian Gray?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Brian Gray is also somewhat of a douchebag, but he's a knowledgeable one who knows his stuff.
Who do you trust that's leading the industry? Okay, back to the story.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is this what I'm saying? Like, somebody hurt G, all right? Somewhere along the way, trust was broken. I think it goes back to his first investment being Fernando's rookie cards. But, so, Ken Golden hops on and he says this. Sorry this story's taking so long, but I find it fascinating. I don't want you. He basically says you guys shouldn't get ripped off. 100K is not a good offer. Like, he makes a point of bringing that up. Then he says, I'm going to front you $150,000 and then premiere you in one of our auctions. All he's wanting is the business to sell the card.
For sure, because he'll make his 20%.
Yeah, which is smart. What he's doing is probably giving. I mean, I don't know a platform other than that's going to give you, unless you have private connections or somebody that would handle it. Like, that's probably your highest value.
Well, and make sure you get the fronting, because there's a lot of horror stories from Golden about your payouts taking 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
Once
I feel like with this story, you just get that agreed upon in writing up front. I don't think it'd be a challenge, because the marketing alone for them is tremendously valuable. But so he's saying, let me just sell it for you and I'll give you $150 to get started. So this morning, it's the 16th, Geoff Wilson, and this comes across like a really, really bad WWF promo.
But
like,
I don't think he was faking it.
I can't tell. His
He's
chin
not
is
that good of an
quivering.
actor.
There's almost tears in his eyes. And he goes after Ken, how dare you? You do this to me. You do this to my family. You do this to Cards
To
HQ.
my shop.
I'm not over you. The Macho Man Randy Savage style. He's trying to like drag this thing on. And rather than saying how he's coming after Ken, he says, I'm going to talk to my bankers tomorrow. When I was in the 90s, what was cool was to tell people that you were going to sue them. Like, I remember kids joking about that. And there was always one like rich kid in the neighborhood. You see this in like all the 90s movies too, where they get offended and they don't have anything else to do and they just say, my dad's going to sue.
Yeah. I always made the joke that Mason Rudolph, when he was a quarterback, Mason Rudolph had the face of the kid who would say that to somebody.
Yes.
When that whole thing happened with Myles Garrett, like, I wanted to make a meme of Myles Garrett hitting him in the helmet and then Mason Rudolph's face going, my dad's going to sue your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he had that face.
So Geoff Wilson, I'm guessing that he's going to come up and be like, I'm going to offer $160,000. What do you think his new number is going to be? Because essentially that's what he's doing as he's saying this. Now, is there a possibility? All right, I'll put on my tinfoil hat. Can I borrow yours real quick? It's over here on mine. There's a possibility Ruben's like, hey, you guys want to have some fun with this? Like, if you guys get into it, like, let's ham it up a little bit. And maybe Ken and Geoff are both saying, because from what I've heard, they're friends. But they also come across like people who are friends until you tell them no.
Right.
Like, I don't think he's a good enough actor to pull it off. But if you watch the second season of Golden, there were a couple times where like he tried to show up with cash and make a large purchase and the deal didn't work. And he actually just seems to be throwing a pouting fit.
Yeah.
Like, pick up all this cash. We got to go. Right.
Yeah.
So I think they're both maybe babies. I'm rambling here, but my point is, Geoff's going to come back with a new offer. What's funny? Here's what I hope happens. I hope it's somebody who doesn't need to cash that out.
Right.
And I hope they let everyone know that they have the card.
And then it just sits there forever.
They're not going to give it away.
Yeah.
And they're not going to sell it for a ton of money.
Well, and I think the real question becomes this. Let's say we agree that the card's a $500,000 card. Okay. Let's say we agree that. If somebody's going to put a bounty on the card, what is a reasonable profit to make if you're going to sell that card for $500,000? Like, what do you feel is a reasonable number? Not percentage-wise, actual dollar value. If I'm going to sell this for $500, how much should I spend on it so that difference is worthwhile?
You're wanting me to go find this card for you. That's a one of one, right? Essentially, you're saying, you find this for me, bring it to me. I have a buyer in mind. That's essentially
yes,
if you're
and they're
going to
pay me $500,000.
You're giving me 80%. I'm not going
so
under.
$400,000.
Yeah, I would need
exactly.
That would be my number. You're getting 20%. You're getting $100,000 on a finder's fee.
Yes, and that I agree.
Maybe
I think
85%.
Yeah,
now
like,
that I say it out loud.
430, 450 even.
Yeah,
I think is reasonable. So for Geoff to offer $100,000, it tells me 2 or 3 things about Geoff Wilson. One, I think we've all established the dude is relatively clueless about this hobby in general. Like, he's good at the social media side of things.
Is he?
I don't know that he's good at the content, but I think he's good at pumping out content.
He's good at producing.
Yes, he's good at pumping out content. And he has established some way, somehow, most of the people who I know who really enjoy Geoff Wilson are either brand new to the hobby or are also relatively clueless. So we can establish one, he either doesn't know what's happening and doesn't really understand what he's offering versus what it is. 2, he's actively trying to rip somebody off. Or 3, and this is what you said when we were, prepping for the episode, and you haven't brought it up yet, so I will. Cards HQ's in a real bad spot, and that $400,000 solves a lot of problems.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
one of those 3 things is or a combination.
I haven't hopped on lately, but on their website there was these. I mean,
well, they've got live cameras all the time,
and they're a lot of times empty
completely.
The inventory, the shelf. This is not about like tearing him down. I would leave him alone. I would have empathy for Geoff Wilson for doing this had he not projected himself and platformed himself and grandstanded himself and shown lack of humility.
Yes.
That's I haven't gone in on him yet.
And
it's like so easy to do. You guys know this. I'm like a pendulum. Like, you'll hear me say things one way, and then in like one sentence later I'm like, but you know this. That's friends appreciate that from me. Usually there's a little bit of wisdom. I'm going back and forth and working my way to an answer. But at this point, he is
you're vapor locking.
He is not an expert.
No.
And I guess he's a brand, but I'll be honest. Who's his fan base?
Yeah. No,
he has a fan base. So let's typecast it. Who do we think his fan base is? So
people who are just getting back into the hobby
in the last few years.
Yep, and who are looking on YouTube, and if you search like sports card information or whatever, he's going to pop up, and he projects himself as being an expert, and he speaks with confidence as if he's an expert. It's kind of like the Liver King. It's kind of like the Liver King. He projects himself with confidence. He speaks with confidence. He dresses and looks like a successful business person. He must know what he's talking about. I'll go buy these Will Greer cards.
I think you're right on that. He's if you go to the National or any large card show, you see that like there's not a dress code for this hobby. Most people aren't super presentable, and definitely not like clean cut. That's not the look.
No.
You have a lot of sneakerheads. You have a lot of people that are trying to. How am I trying to say this? You don't find a lot of people that just seem to care.
Yeah, you're trying to be diplomatic. There's a lot of socially inept people involved in the hobby. And that's okay. That's not a judgment statement of you're a bad human or anything else at all. There's lots of socially inept people that I know in my life. I can be socially inept at times, not for the same reasons, but because I tend to just say whatever comes into my head, and that hits people the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And so when
I love that you just made it everyone else's fault. That's really something.
But at the end of the day, when somebody comes into the hobby or is new back into the hobby, and they look at somebody like Geoff, so none of the people in this hobby who are the high-end players look at Geoff Wilson and think he is worth the toilet paper that they've come out of the bathroom stall in a public bathroom with, as far as his knowledge of the hobby goes. Not as a human
knowledge
being,
of the hobby,
yes.
I would agree.
So
connections is a different story.
Correct.
Networking is a different story. Brand recognition, that's different.
But nobody, and I'm not going to mention anything. You and I were talking about this earlier. there's a person in my life that I have relationship with who is a real D-bag, but the relationships and the connections that have come into my life through that relationship make it worth putting up with his D-baggery, right?
That felt weird.
So at the end of the day, though, none of the guys who actually are the things that Geoff Wilson projects himself as being take him seriously. And there are people in the hobby who are what he projects himself as being.
Like, that's what he's mad about, is somebody just made his video look silly.
Yes.
That's the offense. It's not even the card.
Yeah.
It's the offense.
Yes.
Like, I already claimed it. I called shotgun. Is basically
that's not
what he
how
tried
this
to
works.
do. Yeah. So now he's talking to his bankers. I would project him to overspend. He might come out and say 500-600 just to like prove a point. And then Ken Golden might swoop in last minute, call that, like, so the drama's going to be good. The winner is Michael Rubin, who is in need of a round of funding.
Yeah.
Now, is some of this like, hey, once we get to this position with expansion, we're going to need, like, there's some of the articles that came out. I don't think it's quite as damning as they made it sound, but it takes cash, and sometimes you need a few cash injections to continue scaling, right? So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I would expect a lot more back and forth on socials. It also could be very orchestrated because these are terrible actors, and it's only good for each of their brands and fanatics if they all fuss over this.
Well, that's why I think that the video that you're talking about that Geoff Wilson posted this morning, the little TikTok walking down the street thing, isn't fake. Because
there's a quivering chin.
Yeah, I don't think he's that good of an actor.
Yeah.
He legit looked pissed off. He legit was angry. And he had no idea how to direct said anger. Like,
well, and here's the thing. I commented on it, which I don't get wrapped up in this. Ken Golden just commented with a smiley face. And I commented something to the effect of, hey, thanks, Ken, for making sure that the collector is taken care of. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they're going to get the maximum value and you're getting paid. That's what your services should provide.
Yes.
Not an ebook that you didn't write.
Right.
Called Card Collecting for Dummies when you didn't successfully invest
in anything.
You took down videos.
Yeah, and more importantly, the biggest thing you've tried to do appears to be an abject failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, good luck with that card. And let's keep it moving. I was going to do a little segment. I'll try to keep it brief here, but since I had the store up and running over the last couple of months, especially in the last month, several of you listening have been reaching out as you're trying to scale your eBay business, set up scanners, talk about AI, ask questions about how to boost the algorithm to have your efficiency with your sales and consistency. And one thing that I saw being discussed and debated a lot in the different groups I'm in this last week was a conversation around ads on eBay and eBay's fees. There were like screenshots where somebody maybe sold $300 worth of cards, and then they're only coming out of it with like $180, and they're like, "How did this happen? Thanks, eBay. I don't get it." And then there were a lot of people that said, "Well, just don't do ads. Never do ads. You're throwing money away. If you have a good card, people will buy it." There were other people saying, "No, you have to do ads or you won't sell it." So let me break down kind of like a Cliff Notes version of how this works. Does it make sense to promote your listings when you're selling on eBay, or does it not? So let's look at a couple different scenarios. So I personally have right now a little over 13,000 items in the store. You guys know I do mostly low end, and my inventory value is right around 50 grand right now. I personally put a flat rate 2% promotion on each card. Why do I do that? So eBay's going to take about 12.5%. They're going to charge me 30% as a final value listing.
30 cents, not 30%.
30 cents as a final value listing on the card, and then over a certain amount that goes less. And so basically I'm like, I'm right in this 15% window. It's easy, clean math for me. Why do I do a promoted listing? I'm glad you asked. For those of you saying that I should not do any ads. If you do any ads, you're just throwing money away. What are you selling? Most people, like the stuff that's super saturated right now. So let's say football season's coming up. You've been buying some Burrows. What's there going to be a lot of? Let's say it's a base Prism PSA 9 Joe Burrow. There's going to be a ton of those that sell on eBay in this month and next month, right? Season starting up. And let's say it's a $50 card, okay?
Which is about right.
I'm in the ballpark, right? If you hop on right now, you're probably going to see about 50 recent sales of that. And you're going to say, oh, the comp's for 50, it's a $50 card. That's great. How many are live right now? 1,000?
Probably more like 500 or 600.
500, 600? Okay. That's a lot. And how many of them are listed at about 50? Well, most
probably 70% or so. Yeah.
There's going to be some that are 65, 70 bucks. There's going to be
some
a couple
delusional
of
people
40.
at 200.
Yeah. The ones that pop up for $40 are going to sell immediately. So you have a couple options. You don't have to pay for promoted listing, but if you list your PSA 9 Joe Burrow with the other 500, and let's say that you only filled out a few, like the bare minimum item description. You take the photo, here's the year, here's the set, here's the player, and the picture's posted front and back. 2 images. You are probably on page 5 of somebody scrolling through looking for Joe Burrows. Why is that? 1, you have fewer item descriptions than everybody else because you don't want to spend 15 minutes listing this
one card. Right.
I understand it. So that's going to hurt you. 2 images. Why? Because you scanned it, or I always take 2 images. That's all you need. Well, that's fine, but anybody that has 3 or more images is going to show up before yours do. Anybody that paid for a promotion, their cards are going to show up before yours do. So sometimes when people are saying you shouldn't promote at all, the issue is that what you're trying to sell is in a saturated market and you're at the top end of comps and you've done the least amount of work to make your listing stand out. If that happens, it may sell because it's Burrow and it's a rookie, but it probably is going to take a while. In the time that it took for that to sell, that 1 month, if you could have sold that card for $45 3 times and you were able to buy at a margin, how much more money would you have made?
Right.
So 2 things. If you don't want to promote your listing, you need to be below it. You have to undercut the other comps to stand out because somebody's going to do a price search filter, and then you may be in the top page. Okay?
I always do. That's how I search on eBay.
I am going to be 2% flat. I know that seems like, is that enough? It's enough to bump me because I combine a small ad rate that's flat. It doesn't change. It's not variable. Do not do dynamic ad rates. They're always going to be the top end. eBay is saying, hey, here's the percentage that will guarantee you're going to be at the top. Guess what that percentage is? Like 15%.
We just looked for today. It was 13%. But tomorrow it could be 17.
Yeah.
The next day it could be 11. What day does your card sell?
Yeah. And you still have your 12.5% fee.
Yes.
On
top
your
of that.
So use your brain a little bit. I don't mean that in an assaulting way. What card are you selling? Does it make sense? Now, a card that I ended up moving at a show was that Ernie Banks rookie from Hit Parade that I hit. I ended up doing like a trade and cash deal on that. But that's a card, it may not need to be promoted.
Right.
There's not a lot of 3.5s out there. It's a super desirable card. It's very liquid. And I think at the time there was maybe 2 listed.
Right.
So that's one that may not need that. Most of us that are talking about getting into eBay or making money, maybe you're just doing this as a side hustle to pay for the hobby.
Right.
Most of what you're selling is probably in a saturated market. There's nothing wrong with that. Take 10% off of your price, and you might move it a little quicker. Take 10% off and then put like a 2% ad on it. You're going to start seeing your stuff fly a lot quicker. Think about velocity and speed, how much quicker you can churn over 10 cards in a week, and then now what you can do to reinvest that $50 in margin on it.
Right.
So the answer isn't no ads, and the answer definitely is not dynamic ads. It's sometimes.
Right.
And for me, I set a flat rate. If you don't know how to do that, reach out, message me. I can help you with it. But ads are not a good or bad thing. Think about your costs. You were just talking about general business practice.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. From a business philosophy standpoint, one of the things that you, as somebody who has owned multiple businesses over the last 25 years, and not side hustle businesses, actual companies, there is a mindset that you cannot fall into. It happens in this hobby really bad. You need to worry about your money, not anybody else's money. And the common thread that I see of people complaining about eBay fees are people who are just mad that eBay is getting paid. eBay's running a business. They're providing a service, and they're providing a service that's going to put your product in front of more people than you could ever imagine doing on your own. People are like, oh, just open a Shopify store. Why? So 6 people can see your thing and you're responsible for driving all the traffic to it?
Now I have to spend $500 a month in ads.
So let's break this down. Where are the places that you can potentially sell your cards? You can sell your cards online in an auction house, whether that's eBay or Golden or Fanatics Collect. Now it used to be PWCC, or Heritage or any of the other smaller Pristine. And all those auction houses have one thing in common. They're taking a cut because that's the service they're providing. Some of them take the cut from you, like eBay or Heritage or Pristine. Some of them take the cut from the buyer, Golden, who charges a 20% buyer's premium. But they're getting their cut. You can also sell your cards other places online. You can sell on Facebook or on Instagram or any of the free platforms where you create your own audience or join created audiences and sell to those audiences. You're not very often, unless it's a highly desirable, super low numbered card, going to get full quote unquote comp value for your cards in those places. Most of the time, you're going to get somewhere between 70 and 85%, which lo and behold is just about identical to what you're going to net if you do a basic or promoted listing on eBay.
Yep.
And you're going to have to work way harder for it. Unless you want to put in the time to line a big card and then chase all that down. It's work either way. If you go to a show and set up, most people who set up at shows aren't like me that set up at 40 to 50 shows a year. There are people who set up maybe once a month or, once every couple of months, 3, 4, 5 times a year. And they set up at a decent sized show. Most decent sized shows, you're going to pay somewhere between $60 and $100 for a table. And most guys who fall into that category are going to be tickled pink if they do $600 to $1,000 in sales at that show. So let's just put that into perspective. And at that show, you're usually also not going to get 100% of comps.
Yeah, you're not getting.
You're going to get 85.
If you're
maybe
saying
90.
you're getting 100% of comps, you've never set up a show.
The only way that you can potentially get 100% of comps is if you lean hard into what I lean hard into, which is super unique stuff that people aren't going to find anywhere else. But you're also then going to have shows where you do almost nothing because
that's the trade-off.
There aren't collectors at those shows. There are people trying to buy it to make money. I sell mostly to collectors, so I'm either going to have massive shows or just bleh shows. But either way, when you figure in the cost, so let's say you do $1,000 at a show and the table costs you $100. Well, right now you're 10% in fees. Then you had your gas to get there. You've got your time, the 7-8 hours that you sat there. If you value your time at $20 an hour, I value my time much higher than that. But you say you value your time at $20 an hour, you're $140 in time, plus another $20 or $30 in gas. So you're in this show when you figure all things considered for $250. Well, that's 25% of what you just sold. So start thinking about this stuff from a perspective other than it's not fair. eBay's taking some of my money. Yeah, when you're in a market, somebody's taking a cut somewhere, unless you are the full gamut from point A to point Z, creating an audience, creating the platform to sell it on. Yeah. Which none of you are.
Well, and eBay...
Neither am I.
So listen, eBay is so much smarter than us. Like, their algorithms are... I've had a couple different stores over the years. I've learned this. If your sales have stalled and then you all of a sudden up your ad rate, they give you a bump. And that bump lasts for a couple weeks. And then they want to see if you're going to do it again.
Right.
And then you have a choice. You can either up it again or you can just ride it out until it eventually...
stalls again.
Well, it'll eventually get rolling again. But the quality of your... People think you just snap a photo and throw up a title. It's like...
No.
You have to spend them. You have to list it properly. I like Car Dealer Pro because of that.
Yeah.
Because it builds out a spreadsheet. I can add... Like, I think I have like...
It costs you $80 a month, but it saves you so much time.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
and
worth
you can
it.
get in it for, I think, 20. Not everybody's trying to get 5,000 posts in a month. So there's a lot to it. Don't always just go off the recommended. I've never heard positive things about offsite ads for eBay. I think
cards especially.
Yeah, I think it's for people that do really high dollar stuff like eBay Auto, super high end, fine arts, home goods that are very expensive, that kind of stuff. If it's just a collectible, then we know auction houses that'll outperform that and market it for us. But that was something that was brought up. Read into it. eBay changed their format where now when you click to promote, it used to say what flat percentage rate do you want, or do you want to try dynamic ads? Now it's trying to feed you a dynamic ad rate, which just is them maximizing their profit. But they're not lying. You will be at the top of the list. But hear me out. If you're at the top of the list and your photo isn't as good as the other person who has the card for the exact same dollar amount, like,
yeah,
I'm going to look at a few pictures.
Well, and
so like you still have to do a quality listing.
Also, and this goes back to what you said earlier when you were worried about sounding like you were being mean to people. I'm going to just be mean to people. If you're too dumb to read all the things that eBay doesn't lie to you ever. They're not deceiving in their practices. They will tell you exactly what they're going to charge you before you hit the button that says confirm listing. If you choose to not read what you're going to be charged and then decide to get outraged about what you get charged, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. You don't get to complain.
Well, and there are other factors too.
At least not logically.
If your performance, like if you get a lot of complaints and you don't respond to them, or you have disputes and you don't allow returns, you don't ever refund people, you fight it every time, eventually your seller performance, which is accessible too. There are full reports on how you're doing as a seller in every area. Unresolved issues. Did you know that there are people that do, what's it called? I'm forgetting it. Credit card where they cancel it later. What's it called?
Oh, credit chargebacks.
Chargebacks.
Yeah.
Do you know that you may have pending chargebacks that have affected your performance? And like you have to be committed to learning. You know, eBay will do so much for you.
Yeah. Are you wanting to start a business selling cards, or you just want to occasionally sell a card on eBay?
But if your performance has dropped off enough, eBay will charge you a much higher rate.
Well, yeah, because they have more work on their end on the back end.
Yeah, so that may be part of it too. If you notice all of a sudden, man, they're taking way more out. I haven't done ads. I don't know what's going on. It may be your seller performance. I can help you with that too. It can get cleaned up. Like, that's the thing. And especially if you're somebody that's only sold higher end stuff.
You need to start a consulting business for this.
I'd be happy to help down the road. I don't have time right now. But if you've sold, let's say that you have 100 cards in your store consistently that are $300 and your eBay seller rating has dropped off to like 95, and you're actually going to take care of customers, running high volume, low end might be the fastest way to fix it, because you will bury that in positive feedback with 400 transactions in a month.
Yeah, it's like at a certain point, if you're wanting to do this, you got to look at it as a business. All businesses have costs associated with them. There doesn't exist. It's just like when we talk to people looking to sell a large collection, and they've got a collection that they think is worth 10 grand, and it's, 5,000 cards, and they want 80% for it. It's never happening.
Yeah.
There doesn't exist a world where I do all the work and you get all the profit.
Yeah.
eBay's the same way. They're a business. There doesn't exist a world where they do all the work and you get all the profit. It makes no sense from a business standpoint. eBay is a business. They are not a convenience free thing. We get so used to, and there's benefits to that too. Like I heard somebody say the other day in talking about social media, if you're not the customer, you're the product. You're the customer for eBay. So you get some benefit there too. You're paying them fees, so they're going to help take care of you if you're following their policies and procedures and everything else. If you're not paying for something, you don't get any benefits from it. Only the person who's getting the free, the people, you're the commodity.
Yep. One thing I have learned is the fastest way to take advantage of the algorithms and see high volume, consistent sales per day. Because I've shown you my graph. It's if you do it right, you kind of start to see a range of where you are.
Yeah.
If you're up, down, up, so you really have to pay attention to it. But they care about how you treat the customers. Who is eBay's largest competitor?
Oh, Mercari?
No. In their mind.
Oh, in their mind?
And they finally made a shift. But
I don't know.
They are on the customer service end. They're competing with Amazon. Here's what I mean by that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
People have an once Amazon became what it is, and if I buy anything and don't like it, I'll return it. Here's your money back. Here's
the product.
Here's a label. Get to it in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's what people are expecting. So I had a card this week, Patch Auto. It was like a perfect game one, but it was a pitcher that's up and coming. I sold it for $50. It went ground advantage, so it is an insured product with tracking. It's not eBay standard envelope. It is not qualified for a PIP claim. $50 is enough where it's like, oh, that's a decent card to ship. It has been lost in mail. Customers reached out to me. I've got options here. 1, I don't know what's going on. Just sit tight. It'll eventually show up. It says delayed. 2, sorry, I'm not the post office. I shipped it. You can see that it was shipped, and you see that it bounced to a couple different post offices first. Option 3, let me refund you. I'll figure out what's going on and take care of it on my end. That's what I had to do.
Yeah. Well, and
it's
again,
the only right option. Now, is USPS going to give me my money? Maybe. It says that I could get up to $100 for that claim. We'll see what happens. But that's the cost. And they were like, wow, really? Thanks. I'll be back to buy more for sure.
And that's the thing. So, again, it's for you, this is a business. You look at that and you say, yeah, that's a card that I may be out, and it's $50 that I may be out. But is it worth me tanking $5,000 in sales that I may miss out on because of the way the algorithm's going to treat this if I don't make it right over $50?
And there are certain disputes that hinder your sales way more than
yes,
others.
And that's the thing. It's like at a certain point, there are costs of doing business. I have this conversation with people in this hobby all the time. If you want all the money all the time, this is a really hard business to be in. You got to take a lump here or there. You got to give somebody a deal here or there. How many times have you, like what you just said, even on lower end cards, you've told me situations where a PWE card gets lost in the mail and the customer reaches out and you say, hey, not a big deal. Here's your money back. You file your PIP claim or you don't file your PIP claim. Who cares? It's $3. And then that same customer a week later buys 50 cards out of your store.
Happened. Yep.
Like,
and then that's in my reviews.
Right.
Now, we'll get into this later, and maybe next week will be a time I could touch on it because I'm carrying on. But there are ways to filter who's even allowed to buy from your store.
Yes.
There are ways to mitigate dealing with problem customers that would see a review that says, card was not what I thought. I just told him, and they gave me a refund, told me to keep the card. There are some buyers that are like, yes, I'm going to rip this guy off.
But there's always going to be people to try to take advantage of the system. The benefit that you're going to get as a business owner from doing the right thing drastically outweighs the fact that you may end up with somebody trying to take advantage of you, especially when you're doing what you do, which is high volume, low dollar stuff.
Yeah.
If you have to refund a $3 card,
yeah, that's a little easier.
Who cares?
Or the embarrassing one, and I've tried to learn to handle this, is Car Dealer Pro sometimes takes some liberties and adds in parallels. And when you're on like the 400th card that day and you're like, oh, yep, it's the blah, 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 and you missed that it was not the scoreboard parallel of the draft picks.
Well, and you're preemptive about it when you go to package it and ship it.
So here's the secret sauce. And you're going to be like, financially it doesn't make sense, but it does when you talk about retention and long-term and reviews. When I realize a card has mislabeled, here's what I do. I got it in the envelope. I send a message immediately once I've packaged it. Hey, I'm preparing your card for shipping, and I realize that the listing software made an error, and I missed it. I should have caught it. This is the base and not the X parallel. Now, most of the time, if it was the parallel that I missed, it would have been 10X, so people know that. But I say, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to refund you the total amount for this card, and I'm still sending it to you. Is that a solution that you're happy with?
Yeah.
And everybody is like, wow, oh my gosh, yeah. Or they'll say, yeah, I appreciate it. I'm kind of bummed out. I said, well, let me know what I can do. If you see anything else in the store, reach out to me. That hasn't happened yet, but a lot of people have been back. And you get reviews that say, hey, there was a mistake with the listing. Not only did he make it right, I'll be back.
Yeah.
That's what people
He still sent me the card. He gave me my money back, too.
Yeah. And what did it cost me? Probably 30 cents.
Right.
Because I bought it in bulk.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So that's just stuff to consider. Ad rates. If you need help with that, we'll be able to break that down. You don't have to pay for my class yet. I'm still figuring it out.
Your master classes are ready. Yeah. We had a few more things, but we are at an hour here.
Yeah, we got. So next week, We're going to be back with football content.
Yeah,
baby.
we're 2.5, 3 weeks away from season kicking off, so we're going to start diving hard into football stuff. We're going to bring back Pop or Drop.
Pop or Drop.
We're going to bring
done
back
that in late.
we're going to bring back some competition stuff as far as things that we've done in the past that you guys have really enjoyed with football season. So get your ear holes ready for some NFL content over the next few weeks. Pretty heavy.
That's right. That's all I got since we talked so much. You got anything else?
No, I think we're good.
This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.